Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today I'm going to hopefully quickly be going through all of the supplies that I used to store my photo card and K-pop inclusions collection. In my last video I just went through my entire collection and there was a lot of different stuff that I was using to kind of store everything, so I will be specifying everything in this video and maybe linking all the supplies in future videos just so then it's easy for people to find. First things first, I'll start with the binder itself. So I tend to buy the Avery heavy duty D-ring binders, if you can see what that looks like, or maybe I'll open it up. The D-ring binders. I just like these because, like the name implies, they're pretty sturdy and they hold my collections just fine. I have to split these up into multiple binders and I've never had an issue with them kind of folding, or I've never felt unsure about them being secured this way, so these are just the binders that I use. Next, I'll be covering all of the different types of binder pages that I use to store all my stuff. So the most common one that I will be using is the 9 pocket pages from Ultra Pro to store all of my regular size album photo cards. So here's just kind of what I use. For anything that is larger than a regular size album photo card, I have a few options in terms of storing these bigger inclusions. So this page that you see here is Ultra Pro's 2 pocket page. I use Ultra Pro for most of my stuff, but as you'll see very soon, I have a couple other brands that I like to go for depending on the size of inclusions I'm trying to store. For smaller-ish postcards, I also like to use Ultra Pro's 4 pocket pages. This one, the postcards were a bit smaller and I didn't think I needed to use the larger 4 pocket pages that I use. An example of another brand that I would use other than Ultra Pro would be BCW for their 4 pocket pages. Unfortunately, BCW and Ultra Pro's 4 pocket pages differ in width, so I use the BCW ones for anything that's a little bit wider. I guess anything that are smaller, I would just go with Ultra Pro. But yeah, I use these to kind of store just larger photos and postcards as you see here. Also, annoying as it is, I do pay attention to how many postcards are in the horizontal versus vertical orientation. For these Tiny Tan postcards, since they're all vertical, I could use my 4 pocket pages just fine. But because these Speak Yourself Japan postcards have both horizontal and vertical postcards, I opted to store them in these 3 pocket pages, and these are also by Ultra Pro. In this case, all of the photos that you got from, I think, the 5th Muster Blu-ray and the Memories of 2019, all these photos are in the horizontal orientation. So I found these 4x6 photo pages, also by Avery, which stores 2 to a page, and also there's just like less space between the photo and the border, if that makes sense. I don't know, they just feel more snug in here, so these are what I use for these types of photos. And then lastly, for the largest types of inclusions, I use the Ultra Pro single pocket page. I think this is just to fit a standard sheet of paper. I am trying to look for binder pages that fit A4 posters because I have a lot of those that I need to store, but I don't think that Ultra Pro currently carries anything of that size. I'm just looking for something a little bit longer. So if anyone knows where to get really good A4 sleeves, I would love to know. I think I've heard to check Amazon Japan, if anything. But yeah, this is currently just what I'm working with, and I haven't stored any of my A4s just yet. Lastly, to store any of my BTS tour concert photo cards, or just larger ones as such, I use the 8 pocket pages. Ultra Pro does have an 8 pocket page option, but I personally think that sometimes they're a little too snug and I don't want the cards to kind of bend on itself. I think it just depends what kind of batch you get. Personally, the one that I got was a little bit smaller, so I opted for these 8 pocket pages. I got these on eBay, as most people do. I think these are by the seller Andy Jack. I don't know, you just kind of have to keep a lookout for whenever they restock, because I'm pretty sure once they do, people host a bunch of group orders and they go pretty quick. But yeah, these are the ones that I use, and so far I really like them. And while I'm also on this page, I guess I will go into the sleeves that I use for each of my photo cards. Again, kind of weird that I use different sleeves for different cards, but that's just kind of how this ended up going. For any larger photo cards that I store in these 8 pocket pages, I currently use these Swan sleeves in the size 75 by 105 millimeters. I like these photo cards. I do know that there is another type of sleeve that I want to look into, just because I think it's a little bit more snug, because when you store these at the top they kind of stick out a little bit, if you can see that, but honestly they work just fine. They fit almost perfectly into these 8 pocket pages, and I feel a lot better knowing that these cards will have sleeves to protect them. Next, I'll be going into the two main types of sleeves that I use to sleeve all my photo cards before I put them in these binder pages. Sleeving isn't really necessary, but it's just something that I am used to doing now, so I don't know, it would be kind of weird if I just stopped. But anyways, I use Dragon Shield for both my BTS and I guess non-BTS collection. So the first size that I use would be the classic size in clear. And then I also use their Japanese size sleeves for, I guess, again, other photo cards, and I also have them in clear. So I just use the larger Dragon Shield sleeves for the BTS photo cards just because I think I can fill most of a page, and I don't know, just like the feel of like a full page, and these sleeves go all the way up until the binder page pocket, if that makes sense. I think this Tay photo card is in the Japanese size sleeve, so you can kind of see there's a slight difference in size. Yeah, it's just a little bit thinner and shorter, but honestly it still like protects the card just as fine. Yeah, I don't know why I have a preference for the classic and then the Japanese size for certain photo cards, but that's just kind of what works for me. And I don't know, I also like to use these larger ones for photo cards that are a bit smaller just because I know that they'll, I don't know, shift around less in the page. You totally couldn't see that, but I use it for these wallet size photos, so you can see there's a big border, but I think that they stay pretty well inside the sleeve so they don't shift around as much when I'm flipping through my pages. And yeah, those are the sleeves that I use. Right before I get into making my binder fillers, I also use these two types of photo sleeves for my 4x6 photos and my 5x7 postcards and if hollow standees, I guess, for NCT's merch. But yeah, these are just what I use. I don't really sleeve all of them. I think it kind of just depends on what the item is and if I think it needs the extra protection or if it'll maybe slip out of the binder page otherwise. I kind of use these also again to kind of like fill the space so it doesn't shuffle around or go flying out of my binder or anything like that. Lastly, I will be going over how I make my binder page fillers. I've been getting a lot of questions about this and I feel bad that, you know, there's not like an easier way of me doing this, but basically I make my own. I just use construction paper that I get from Michael's or any sort of craft store, so I use like a baby pink and a black. For some reason, I guess that's just the colors that I wanted to use for my binder so far, so I make them in two different sizes, and I'll be sure to include the dimensions of both sizes. So this is for the standard 9 pocket pages, and this is in the event that I use them for the 8 pocket pages. So I basically use this paper cutter here to speed up the process. Again, if you're not making too many binder fillers, I think you can totally hand cut them, then that's totally doable. But this is just how I do it. So yeah, I decided to make the investment and buy a paper cutter as well as this corner cutter. I don't know, it's not really needed, but I think for like aesthetics, I cut the paper using this paper cutter, and then I just go ahead and use the largest size corner here and just stamp it or cut it out like so, and I just have my binder fillers. I don't really make these too often. I think maybe once every other month I kind of just do a couple more pages for my construction paper, and that about does it. But yeah, that's basically about it. I didn't buy these from anywhere, and I like that I get to make my own so that I can kind of control the size of them again, so then it fits like the exact dimension of the binder page. But yeah, that is all the supplies that I use. If you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. I will try to, I guess, type out all of the names of everything that I use, and then you can probably just type that into Google and you should be able to find them pretty easily. But yeah, this is just for anyone who is curious. This is everything that I use. It's kind of a lot, again, just to store pieces of paper, but it's what makes me feel more secure about storing my collection. And I hope that you got some information that you were looking for out of it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you're doing well, that you're staying safe, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!